Poorscythe. Alright, we're out of the gate. There's going to be a quick menu here right off the bat. Got to do some config stuff right off. We want to make sure that we set our equip, specifically in the config menu, cursor to memory, and that will allow us to do an equipment glitch, which you're seeing in full effect right now. Both runners are going to be equipping Knight's Armor on all 4 characters. That's going to increase the defense of all our characters. Will pretty much be taking 1 damage. Poorscythe electing to leave town right away. He's going to do his shopping later on in the run. Suiko is doing his shopping here, just buying some potions for safety before leaving town. There's a little bit of a route difference. Poorscythe is electing to do his shopping in Provoca, where you can buy ethers, saving himself a little bit of shopping later. Alright, so just a quick update for Group B Cyclone. It's a hotly contested group right now, with no runner more than a 2-game win-loss margin. Poorscythe, surprisingly, with an average time of 1 hour 32 minutes, the lowest average time in his group is 0-1. So it is definitely a very tight group that you're going to want to keep an eye on. In this first little stretch here, there's not much way of enemy formations. It's a lot of goblins. They're really easy to run from. You see the occasional wolves. Wolves are really nasty in the early game. You just don't have the speed to run away from them. So the flee chances in Final Fantasy are based on the amount of speed that you have. Obviously, the more speed, the easier it is to run away. And you're going to see throughout the run both runners stacking agility equipment on their characters in order to expedite the process. So Poorscythe, really solid first segment of the at Garland at 210. He's looking to get a sub 230 Garland kill. Suiko is doing the second menu in the game. So there's a leather cap in that chest that picked up. We're going to use that to switch a Judgment Staff, an endgame weapon that is capable of casting Flare when you use it as an item. So it's very powerful. We don't use it on the first boss, Garland. Main reason being that he just doesn't have the HP warranted. Flare is an 8-second enemy. So we want to avoid casting it unless we're killing large mobs or large groups. It is a huge physical damage upgrade, as you saw. Black Mage crit for 100 damage. Garland has 214, I believe. So you can kill him in about 3 to 4 hits. So the main difference in FF1 between PSP and the rest of the FF1 versions is that the PSP has a unique glitch to this version called the equipment glitch. Basically how it works is if you try and equip a piece of equipment on a slot that it's not supposed to be on another character, it'll load the armor ID from the weapon ID you're trying to equip. So hypothetically, let's say you have a sword in your weapon slot, and you move the cursor 1 character over and put the cursor to the armor slot. If you go back and try and equip the sword on your warrior, for example, while simultaneously using the LR buttons to swap to another character in his armor slot, the game is going to glitch out and it's not going to know what to do. So it's going to try and put the sword in the armor slot, but the IDs of the armor and the weapons are different. So it's going to pull the ID from the armor pool and give you something unique in the armor section. So in this case, the opening hammer that we bought, the ID for the hammer corresponds with the same ID that the knight's armor has in the armor slot. So by trying to equip the hammer on another character's armor slot, we basically create a knight's armor out of it. So Poorscythe has an early lead here. Not too much at the beginning. It's probably about 20. Main thing that he doesn't want to run into in this section of the game is going to be wolves. A lot of the enemies here, crazy horses and whatnot, very easy to run for the most part. Gigas worms as well are not very fast. You can generally run from them. Crazy horses, unlucky for Poorscythe. He has to take an extra turn running away. But usually they're not too. Alright, so Poorscythe is the first runner into Provoca. He's going to take a quick detour to the item shop here and buy some consumables that Suiko did already buy in Cornelia. Specifically, he's going to buy some potions. He's going to buy the ethers that Suiko's going to have to buy later on in the run, as well as some Phoenix Downs and antidotes in case characters die off or he gets poisoned. Now, with the shopping differences, they're both at the Pirates fight at around the same time. This fight's pretty easy. You just want to defend on your warrior and queue up the Judgment Staff flare animation, or flare spell, sorry, on the other three characters. Flare itself does about 100 damage to all the pirates. It's a quick, easy one-shot. The warrior is going to want a physical attack later on in the run, so the reason that you queue up the Judgment Staff on the other characters is basically just to save memory, like cursor spots later on in the run. The Thief is going to want a physical attack later on Astos, but it's okay to queue up the Judgment Staff with him as well, just because he's the fastest out of your characters, and it may save pirates from getting a turn off during that fight. Alright, so both runners on the ocean. The ocean has the lowest encounter rate in the game. You can go long stretches of sea without getting an encounter. Seeing both of them get one is, I would say it's average that you get one in that little stretch. Ideally, you get 0. Suiko is unlucky in getting a second one. So Hagens are very hard to run. So you can see he's just queuing up to kill them on the second. Poorscythe, however, has landed. You saw him quickly duck into the castle, and he's basically just resetting his threat level when he goes in. Basically, how encounters work in this is every step you take, there's a random chance to get an encounter, and the more steps you take, the higher the chance is. That step counter will reset to 0 on screen transitions. So by ducking into the castle, he's going to reset his threat level down to 0 and should go a longer stretch without getting an encounter. Poorscythe having a really decent walk over to Marsh Cave. Suiko's going to have an equally good walk in order to catch up some of that time. Marsh Cave is one of the couple dungeons in the game that also have an extremely low encounter rate. It is not uncommon to get no encounters in the entire dungeon. This is PSP unique. The Game Boy Advance version has a higher encounter rate in the dungeon, and so did the other versions of the game. Just PSP, they lowered the encounter rate. I'm not really sure why they did it, but I am not complaining as a runner myself. So Poorscythe hits the spike tile in front of the crown. It's a key item that we need to continue the plot. The spike tile contains Pisco Demons. You can get anywhere between 2 and 4 of them. They're an unrunnable encounter. They're considered a mini-boss at this point. Half killed them. The route that Poorscythe is using, the Black Mage route, requires XP from this fight, so he's carefully looking to see how many demons he gets. If he only gets 2, he requires Astos as death on one of his characters, or he's not going to be high enough level in order to learn black magic spells later on in the run. That would mean he would have to force and kill an encounter later. Luckily, he got 4 of them. Suiko on the way in, Poorscythe is on the way out. You're going to see them kind of high-five each other on the way through the dungeon pretty soon. I didn't see Suiko hop into the other shop in Provoca, so I'm guessing he's also using the same route, but I'm not 100% sure. So we'll keep an eye out on how many Piscos he gets. 3 encounters I've seen on his end so far, just getting to Pisco incredibly. I'm also going to take a quick moment to mention another thing about how random encounters work in this game. So each tile type has a different threat level. It's not really the best way to describe it, or like the technical aspect of it. But basically, each different tile generates at a different rate. So grassland tiles will generate encounters much less than forest tiles, and marsh tiles will generate encounters less than grassland tiles. You're going to see both runners try and manipulate their movement on the world map, try and avoid tiles that spawn encounters at a higher rate. So Poorscythe hits our next boss, Astos. He's a pretty big pushover in this version of the game, especially with all the equipment that we have. He's going to queue up a second physical attack with his Thief, and he's going to have the 2 mages cast Flare. If he's lucky, and both mages act first, with a crit from the white mage, he Astos he attacks. It's going to take him 4 here. The white mage generally hits around 100, but can crit 200, which would basically leave 1 physical attack remaining to kill Astos. There was no death from Astos. All his characters gained experience, and he got the 4 Piscos, so he's perfectly leveled and ready to get some black magic spells. The key to the route that Poorscythe is using is that he's going to be learning AoE spells on his black mage, and that's specifically to take care of the run's unrunnable encounters. There are several encounters throughout the run that you cannot flee from. You have to stop and fight them. And so the black mage learning AoE magic is going to mitigate some of that time loss by allowing us to kill them quicker than using the Judgment Staff's Flare. The spell animation on Fyra, Thundara, Blizzara is about 2 seconds compared to Flare, which is 8. And if you get a lot of unrunnables over the course of the run, that time adds up fairly. Suiko's got the crown. He's on his way up to Astos. Poorscythe is way away from Astos. He's got to duck into Elfheim here quickly. He's going to pick up the 2 of his 3 AoE spells, Fyra and Thundara. By doing it this early, if he gets more encounters on the sea like Sahagins and outrun from, Thundara is an excellent option to take those out quickly. He's also going to make a detour to the item shop here and pick up gold needles in case he gets petrified later on in the run. It's more of a safety item. You won't see runners in 3D attempts, but in a setting that can mean all the difference. Suiko hits up to Astos now. We're going to see if Astos decides to play as nice with him as Poorscythe. Poorscythe getting a little bit unlucky with a failed run, but manages to get off on the second turn. And he is on the boat at 1332, so Poorscythe is on pretty good pace. Some unlucky sea encounters for Poorscythe. That's down a little bit. You can see that he queued up Flee, his Warrior, Thief, and White Mage, and he's letting his Black Mage cast spells. That's basically just to see, it's so whichever comes, either the Black Mage just kill them, or one of his characters will run away. Whichever comes first, that's the ideal. They're both equally fast options, so allowing that is going to make things a lot easier. single ogre ambush on Suiko's side. That's not the end of the world. You're kind of, you're gonna get a bunch of ambushes throughout. It's just of RNG. What you don't want to see is ambushes with 4 or more enemies. So if your ambushes or the ambushes that you're gonna get are gonna come on packs like single ogres, you're gonna take that any day. They get 1 turn off and then you get a chance to run. So Poorscythe, after picking up Jolt Tonic from Matoya, is coming back to Elfheim to wake the prince with the Jolt Tonic and get himself a Mystic Key. Now this whole segment of the run up until Mystic Key, it's basically a giant fetch quest, but it's also some of the most RNG heavy parts of this run, simply because we just do not have the equipment reliably from enemies. So you see packs like 4 wolves or 6 wolves will slow us down a lot more than single ogres. And it's the quality of encounters that really determines on it. So you can see times vary wildly run to run in this first 16, first 18 minutes of the game. I know I mentioned earlier that it is possible to see no encounters on the boat pretty much before you get to the canal. You may only have 1 encounter. So both runners are getting extremely unlucky with the amount of encounters being on the sea right now. But it seems to be going both ways for both runners. Poorscythe has gotten a lot of encounters on his way back from Matoya's cave, allowing Suiko to kind of close the gap a little bit here. Poorscythe finally landing. He's on his way back to the castle. No encounters between landing and getting to the castle. That's pretty good. Usually you see 1, sometimes 2. So with a Mystic Key obtained for Poorscythe, he's got basically it's a key item that unlocks a bunch of treasure chests, some of which you need for key items. The big thing here is that the Mithril Hammer and the Bronze Glove chests in here grant us the ability to glitch ourselves some extremely powerful equipment, namely the Thieves' Armlet. See, the Thieves' Armlet comes with a huge boost to our agility, and this is going to make running away from things like wolves extremely trivial. It's a huge boost for us. He also uses the Bronze Gloves to glitch a Sage's Staff on both his White Mage and his Thief. Now the Sage's Staff also adds +5 agility naturally on it, so that's a little bit of extra agility for running away. But it also is some nice intelligence boost for your mages, so he's going to want that later on his Black Mage, just to boost the Black Mage's intelligence. Get some extra damage out of the spells that he's casting. But for right now, he's putting it on his Thief as a placeholder, just for that extra run chance. So Poorscythe, back to Cornelia, got himself a key item. Got another Sahagin pack on the sea. He's just getting hammered on the boat right now. Suiko's not that far behind, probably about a minute picking up the Mystic Key. Maybe a minute and a half at most. He's definitely got a lot of room to catch up. So an interesting thing about those docks that a lot of casual players might not know They are in an enclave, but you don't actually have to be inside the enclave in order to dock your boat, as you saw Poorscythe do. You just have to be touching one of the tiles. So by docking specifically at that one on the outside, he's giving himself a couple tiles of on the world map that can possibly generate encounters. Go having a little bit of difficulty getting the Thieves' Armlet to show up. The glitch is, it's not frame perfect, but it is kind of precise. Like, you don't need exact frame input to get it to work, but it's within a few frames. So your timing on it does have to be kind of precise. And if you don't get it, you're just gonna see the game trying to equip a regular piece of armor on, or you'll be stuck on the character you were trying to do the glitch from, as you saw a couple times. So while the first 16, 18 minutes are the most wild in terms of RNG, just because of fleet chances, the section that's coming up is also pretty RNG heavy, and it's the Cavern of Earth section. In Cavern of Earth, you have 5 floors with Lich waiting as a boss at the bottom for you. The problem is with this dungeon is you cannot progress throughout the dungeon all the way to the bottom unless you have a key item. And in order to get that key item, you need a second key item that's halfway through the dungeon. So we have to go into the dungeon, grab the item, leave the dungeon, and then come back in and go all the way back down 5 floors. At the time the game was made, of course, Square was kind of looking for a way to artificially increase the length of the dungeon without having to devote more resources to the dungeon itself. So before docking in Melman, Poorscythe is going to open the 15 puzzle menu. So 15 puzzle is an optional mini game that you can play. You have to line up all the tiles, 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12, 15. And you're timed in doing it. Poorscythe is trying to aim for the second place time, which is between 30 seconds and 60 seconds. Because the prize that you get from it, you have a 1 in 6 chance of obtaining an emergency exit, which he did not. He picked up the elixir. So the emergency exit is a huge game changer. It's basically a free teleport, and it's going to be used in Cavern of Earth to avoid having to walk out after you get the key item on B3. It takes roughly a minute and a half to 2 minutes to walk out of the dungeon, and that's pretty much what it saves. The downside is, of course, you have to spend between 30 and 45 seconds attempting to obtain it, and it's a 1 in 6 chance, so if you don't get it, you're just out 30, 45 seconds. With a little bit of a lead, Poorscythe electing to go for it. It's a gamble that does pay off sometimes. And you saw my second race for Rhaenys. I did manage to get myself one. I went for it well, and it basically it just flips the lead. If your opponent has the lead and you manage to have that, it's pretty close going in. You're instantly ahead if you manage to get it. The current world record does not use emergency exit, but the second place time does, and the times are getting to the point where you really want to consider grinding out emergency exit in order to PB. That I'm aware of, world record does not have. Could be mistaken, but I don't. It is still definitely possible with extremely good RNG. World record without the emergency exit, but having the emergency exit makes your odds go significantly higher, and we're getting to the point where it's definitely on a lot of top runners' mind on trying to grind out an early emergency exit 6 minutes into the run and just resetting if you don't have it. Alright, so Poorscythe is going to drop a safety save here on 3. There are several nasty encounters on this. Cockatrices have the chance to petrify you on hit if you have all 4 characters petrified, it's game over. As well, Pisco Demons, the mini-boss that we fought in Marsh Cave earlier, return as an unrunnable encounter that you have to stop and fight. Poorscythe, however, pretty much wasted time saving because he got a 0 encounter, which is absolutely incredible. Cannot ask for a better Cavern of Earth than that. I can honestly count the number of times I've gotten a 0 encounter B3 on one hand, and I've run this game almost. I have almost completed 200 runs of Final Fantasy, so it is extremely rare to see this happen. It is definitely not good news for Suiko, though, because he's going to need an equally strong Cavern of Earth if he wants to catch up any time in this segment. Yeah, Roach. You can say that of a lot of the top times that there is just one segment that that made the difference between several leaderboard spots. This run can go from really good to really bad in the snap of your finger. Just like that, you get one bad segment and you lose 3 minutes. There's really nothing you can do or say about it. The RNG in this game is absolutely insane. I know my own personal best, for example, loses 2.5 minutes in Chaos Shrine. That would have been second place had I not lost 2.5 minutes there. So the game just does what the game wants, and you gotta cross your fingers and hope that it holds out for you the whole time. Alright, I'm gonna move my mic a little bit closer. Hopefully my noise gate won't cut me off as much. Just let me know if it's a little bit better in chat, please. So Poorscythe getting a little bit unlucky here. The shadow encounter on the world map, 90% of the time is a preemptive, and 10% of the time it is an ambush, and he got the unlucky 10% that time. Suiko's getting unlucky on his end as well. He's got some Pisco Demons, which he has to stop and fight. This is where having the Black Mage here is incredibly powerful. Rather than using the Judgment Staff, Thundara will kill them in one hit. Provided that he has the Sage's Staff on, which he did not in the menu. That's why it took 2 to kill them. The intelligence from the Sage's Staff is mandatory for the extra damage. Without it, as you see, it is a damage roll, Thundara. The Sage's Staff should increase his damage rolls into the 100 range, pretty much giving an instant kill. Gold needles, man. In a race, you have to buy them. Cockatrices will just petrify you on hit, and that's what you see on Suiko's side. An ambush from them can kill a run. It's happened to me on numerous occasions, and it's happened to many other FF run runners numerous occasions. Poorscythe is having a little bit of bad luck with these Wargwolves. They just don't want to let him get away. Even with all the agility that he has, he's just getting unlucky with his flea rolls at the moment. That's 2 turns now that he has failed to flee, and you're seeing him queue up some spells on the Black Mage because he doesn't want a 3rd time to happen. Not necessary this time. Suiko's starting to catch up a little bit of that lost time. Poorscythe's insane B3. They're probably about 45 seconds, under a minute apart now. So he's caught up, closed the gap a little bit. The really good early pace that Poorscythe had has tempered off with the RNG that he's gotten in the last 10 minutes or so. Ideally, for a sub 1 hour 30 time, you kind of want to get the Earth Rod no later than 28. So he's about 2 minutes behind that pace. Still plenty of time to save some on the back end, though. It is still possible to get at 130, but that pace has kind of slipped away from him a little bit. So 1 hour 30 is kind of the benchmark that a lot of runners use. It's kind of at that unique spot where you can get under 130 with really good luck, but you can also consistently get under 130 with really good skill. There, of course, will be times where the game just says no. But if you can consistently average under 130, you're definitely in a position where you can compete for the top times in this game. And so that's kind of the threshold where runners feel that they've graduated to the next skill level. And we're kind of hoping to see that at least one of these 2 runners, or hopefully even both of them, manage to pull off a run today that is under 130. I'm not sure if we had one in the tournament yet. I would have to check. I don't see one currently registered, although we had a close one from Boxmeister that was 1 hour 30 seconds. So no sub 130s yet that have been updated on the tournament page. Yeah, it's very similar to Kefka at Narsh, with that 130 being the benchmark time. The main difference between this and Kefka at Narsh, though, is that RNG is a significantly bigger factor in this run than it is at Kefka at Narsh. The Kefka at Narsh run is a lot more skill-based in terms of the times that you get. Yeah, and especially considering that there is RNG manipulation in Kefka at Narsh. So I didn't quite catch if Poorscythe had made a detour earlier on in the dungeon. There is an alternative safe strat that I'm kind of expecting him to show off at some point in this tournament, where you pick up an item that you will glitch into the Dragon Armor. Now, the Dragon Armor offers elemental resistance up, and the idea is that you can equip that on some of your characters to survive Lich's Blizzara if he uses it. You can use this if you have a high enough HP pool on some of your characters to essentially skip the safety save, or even the reset at all. It is a little bit of a time loss due to menuing, and you have to tour to get it. But if you do get unlucky and you do get hit with Blizzara, you can save some time with it as well. So it is an interesting race strat. You never really see it in an any percent PB attempt, but I'm kind of curious if someone is going to pull that out in this tournament at some time. I didn't see a menu from Poorscythe, so I don't think he went for it this time. I see Poorscythe in chat commenting on the Dragon Armor strats that would have worked, because he did overheal the Thief. So Lich down at about 34.5 for Poorscythe. And as Sonny is saying in chat, there isn't another alternative strat where if you do get poisoned, oh, he's talking about something different. But if you do get poisoned on your way back down to Lich on your warrior has such a high HP at this point that you can just potion up the warrior up to full HP before Lich with the poison to tank the Blizzara and then let the poison tick you back down. The reason that we don't heal the full HP and we walk into Lich with such low HP is that we want the Thief and the Warrior to die pretty soon in the run. We're going to be doing some grinding necessary to learn some of the more advanced magic in the game that we're going to finish the speed run. And we need both mages to end up at level 19 in order to spells. So by killing off the Thief and the Warrior, when we're doing the grinding, that grind becomes a lot faster. So the only way healing up your warrior to take Blizzara really works in a way that doesn't lose you time is if you have the poison to take him back down. So we're kind of getting to that point in the run right now where we're going to start wanting to pay attention to the HP pools of both runners' Black Mage. Now I can see that Suiko has definitely a little bit more HP on his Black Mage than Poorscythe has. The reason that this is important is Chaos, the final boss of the run, has some pretty damaging spells, and the last thing that you want to see is your characters go down. We can artificially inflate the HP of our characters with the Giant's Tonic. It adds plus 200 max HP to your character during the fight that you cast it in, but casting it wastes a turn naturally, and so both runners are going to be paying attention to pull up their Black Mage to see whether or not they're going to need to either A, buy them in the first place, or B, use them during the fight. Your Black Mage wants to be ideally 225 HP or above in order to survive Chaos's AoE spells. And your Ninja as well wants to be well above 300, because he is pretty fragile as well and can go down. You can kind of get an early indication of how your mages are doing at this point in the game, but it's really after the grind that you're really focusing on how much that your mages have. The White Mage is pretty tanky and has a large HP pool. We're not really concerned about her. It's the Black Mage for the most part. The Black Mage does have some utility in the final boss fight as well. He's capable of casting Haste, which will increase your DPS in the fight, allowing you to kill the boss a lot faster. So in Crescent Lake, Poorscythe is buying a couple items necessary for the equipment glitch. We're upgrading our Thieves Armlets now to Black Garbs. Black Garbs offer an agility increase over the Thieves Armlet, will allow us to run away from the stronger monsters that we'll be facing very soon. As well, equipping a Lust Dagger on this character. I didn't quite catch if he added it to the Black Mage or not. There's a little bit of a route divergence, even in this particular route, over if you give the Black Mage the Lust Dagger or not. I know in my notes for this route, I basically have the Black Mage with the Lust Dagger at this point. But I personally do an alternative strat where I leave Mage's Staff on him. Now, this is important basically for damage rolls in Cavern of Ice. With the Sage's Staff, the Black Mage is capable of killing the Pisco Demons, which are an unrunnable enemy again in Cavern of Ice, with a single Thundara. However, with the Lust Dagger, the Black Mage will need to use the Judgment Staff and the 8-second flare animation in order to kill those. The trade-off is the Lust Dagger has an extremely high agility stat attached and basically makes running away from enemies in Cavern of Ice a cakewalk. So it's a little bit of extra safety running away from encounters that you can flee from versus a little bit of extra safety running in killing encounters that you can't flee from. And there's absolutely no way to predict which one of those two you're going to get. So it's a toss-up either way on which one you elect. I'm pretty sure Poorscythe has elected to go the Lust Dagger route. Either way, you're going to want to throw a Lust Dagger on your White Mage as well. The more Lust Daggers you have, the it's going to run away. Poorscythe taking a safety save here at the beginning of Cavern of Ice. Cavern of Ice is the most deadly dungeon in this speedrun. It is absolutely ridiculous. There are so many things here that can wreck your day. Here you see Pisco Demons in large packs, 7 of them. They're not a deadly threat, but they are a huge time waste. Poorscythe is having to flare in order to cut them out. There are a lot of undead enemies in this place that can all inflict paralyze on you. And it is entirely possible when you have all 4 characters paralyzed to just be stuck there for minutes at a time, unable to move. As well as you see cockatrices make the return here, and they can ambush you and full petrify you. As well, some of the rarer encounters deeper in the dungeon include white dragons. Ice Storm can one-shot you. Dark Wizards Fyrega can one-shot you. As well as a host of numerous other time-wasting or dangerous enemies. Now, Spectres and Wraiths are a little bit difficult to run away from. Having the Lust Dagger increases the chance significantly, so you see Poorscythe electing to run from it. The alternative strat you can use here, you'll probably see if Poorscythe fails to run away, have the Black Mage queue up a Fyra, which will one-shot the pack. Now, personally, I'm kind of torn on whether or not you want to kill undead packs or run away from them, or if you want to do what Poorscythe was doing earlier on the sea and queue up Flee, and a Fyra. The reason is, obviously, killing enemies is a time waste, but you're also getting a little bit of XP on your mages, which allows you to get the grind fight a little bit faster, and the enemies in this area do give a decent amount of XP. So it is, in some situations, worth it to kill a pack, especially if your warrior or thief has already hit the floor on your way down and you're just stuck with the 2 mages. You'll get the bonus XP from only 2 characters alive, and it makes the decision-making process a little bit more interesting. So Poorscythe now dropping down. There's a spike tile in front of the key item that contains Evil Eye. Now what he's going to want to do here is defend 1 round on all of his characters and hope he procs a Thundara from Evil Eye. Gaze will also kill his warrior. So defend a second turn. Gaze on the white mage is not ideal, but it missed. 3 rounds waiting, and there's the Thundara. So he set his HP's up so that his ninja is going to die to the Thundara and his will live. This will allow him to kill him and get the maximum amount of experience on his. He's going to want to sit here and grind until he is level 17 plus 1 battle. This will allow him to obtain enough experience here in the time we buy the spells that he is level 19 and pick up the spells Teleport and Kilara, as well as Haste is level. Alright, sorry, it's level 15 for the ninja. It should be a little bit lower. Black. Suiko's now in Cavern of Ice. He's got to go the whole trip down. Poorscythe had a really bad trip down to Evil Eye, so this is a good time for Suiko to try and gain back some time. He's doing a little bit of a risky strat by leaving his warrior dead for so long. Having the warrior alive, of course, chance for him to run away. And there you see on his screen the dark wizards that are so fearsome. He's most of the time you see them, it's a preemptive, but you can get an ambush by them, and if you do get ambushed, it's most likely a game. You can see Suiko just electing to kill off this 7 dead spike tile judgment staff rather than trying. It can be rather annoying to try and with 2 Lust Daggers, generally, more often than not, can do it. Poorscythe now done with the grind. He's going to heal up his thief, but not his warrior, and this is key for his EXP generation. He's going to want to try and feed a little bit of extra XP to his ninja in the hopes his ninja will hit level 19. He's still a thief right now, but we will be class upgrading pretty shortly, and the ninja can learn up to level 4 black magic. And the key for this is if he can manage to funnel enough experience, he's not going to go out of his way to get it, but if he can manage to do it, get his ninja up to level 15 before he does his shopping, he can pick up a second copy of Haste, which will expedite the setup time on the final boss. This is a nasty ambush here on Poorscythe's side. 5 cockatrices and 4 mummies. You can see Thief went down to a Petrify. There's a chance this whole party could. Luckily, he avoids that this time. He's going to probably try and flee with his white mage. Yeah, flee with the white mage and kill with the black mage. Should be safe. Because both runners picked up the safety gold needles at the beginning of the run, having a single character petrified is not the end of the world. In a PB attempt, you usually wouldn't get that. So having a character petrified will make you have to do all kinds of backup strats in order to go get another gold needle. There are a few you can pick up in throughout the world that are kind of on your route, so knowing where they are is very important. In this case, having bought 11 of them should be fine. There's not too many chances for you to get petrified, and 11 is generally more than enough to cover you for the entire run. Suiko starting the Evil Eye grind. Poorscythe had a really bad exit. So we're kind of hoping here Suiko can catch up a little bit of time with Cavern of Ice. Poorscythe's Cavern of Ice was not the greatest. Had a lot of unrunnables and a lot of really nasty packs. So the next key item that the runners are going to be getting is the airship. The Levistone in Ice Cave allows you to get the airship, and the airship is going to open up the entire world to us. The goal now for Poorscythe is going to be to head over to Citadel of Trials and get the class change process started. The reason that we class change in PSP is to give the Black Mage access to teleport. It means that we need less overall levels in order to beat the run. The equipment glitch makes this possible. Having the DPS to kill Chaos at a low level, and having the defense to survive his attacks at a low level, means that class change overall is actually a time save. And the reason it's a time save is Black Mage can pick up teleport at level 19. And that's going to allow us to not have to walk in and out of dungeons. Sunken Shrine, for example, we have to go all the way up 2 floors and then come all the way back down to the bottom. The teleport will allow us to warp past those floors and save a bit of time. The amount of time overall that you save having teleport definitely makes up the amount of time that you're spending in Citadel doing the class process. Suiko on his end is done with the grind. Now he's trying to get himself out of Cavern of Ice, hopefully in a relatively quick manner, get his airship and head over to Citadel as well. Once you're out of Ice Cave, everything starts to calm down a little bit on the RNG front. You can get some bad RNG, like some unlucky large pack ambushes, but for the most part, your average times through this next 10-15 minute section of the game tend to even out over the course of several runs, where you might get a little bit of bad RNG in one segment and some good RNG in the other segment. You tend to even out at about the same amount of time for the next 3 or 4 sections of the game. So both runners are kind of calmed down now and getting into autopilot mode. And the Minotaur zombie packs Citadel are one of 2 unrunnables. The other one is Dragon Zombie. It's a rare encounter. There is a spike tile at the end of the dungeon that forces you to fight one, but to encounter one randomly in the dungeon. Either 1 in 64 or 3 in 64. It is an extremely rare encounter. One that is welcome because they're really easy to kill and they grant a ton of XP. So right past this door on Poorscythe's end, there will be a spike tile where you can fight either 1 or 2 nightmares. This is the first time you encounter nightmares on the run. We will encounter them as a regular encounter later on, and they have extremely high agility. And with the current equipment that we have, it is quite difficult to run away from. Because there's only 2 of them, we just elect to kill them, and they grant a decent amount of XP that we bank on, which is why we don't grind a little bit more on Evil Eye. We use this XP to push us to the level threshold that we need in order to pick up Hilara and teleport. Poorscythe also picked up a chest right behind the nightmares that will allow him to glitch the Lordly Robes onto his mages. Now, the Lordly Robes are a little bit of the opposite of what we've been equipping. The Lordly Robes grant an intelligence boost rather than an agility boost. And this is to allow his mages to do damage with their level 2, their aura spells. So Fyra, Blizzara, Thundara. And this is incredibly important to be able to kill unrunnable packs one shot with a spell. It's kind of the cornerstone of the route as it stands right now. There was a point in time where the Lordly Robes were only ever put on for the final boss, and that was just to allow the White Mage to heal enough with the Hilara spell on Chaos. But now we equip the Lordly Robes on the mages earlier in the run, which allows us to kill unrunnable packs a little bit faster. The flee calculation also factors intelligence into it as well. So having the intelligence on his characters is not necessarily a bad thing over agility, as the extra intelligence does slightly increase his chance to flee from regular encounter. Poorscythe walks out of Citadel as Suiko's walking in. So there's still a pretty decent gap between them, but there's definitely still a lot of chance for a comeback here. Poorscythe is in the Dragon Cave. He's coming here to get his class upgrade. The Rat's Tail that he got in Citadel is going to allow the Dragon King Bahamut to upgrade him. I saw him walking out, but I thought he was walking. He has already done this. Now it's time to do a little bit of shopping. He's going to go to the Desert Caravan. He needs to pick up the fairies, the bottled fairy. That's a key item that he's going to need. As well, he's going to pick up probably 11 Giant's Tonics. I haven't seen his HP, but there's no reason to not just hit the one cursor, pick up 11. The Giant's Tonics, as I mentioned earlier, give you, when used in battle, 200 extra max. And this is safety for the final boss. Suiko is now out of Citadel, and he is on his way into the shopping section. There was one point in the history of the route of this run where all the shopping was done at once. Now it's kind of split into two sections. So Poorscythe is going to do the Gaia section now. There's no shopping here. He's just grabbing the dropping off the ferry and picking up the Oxyale, and he's going to do the rest of the spell shopping after Mount Gulg and killing Merilith. Yeah, the only reason why you would not buy 11 is if you only think you need the 1, in which case you just mash X and only get the 1. If you need more than 1, you pick up 11. So Mount Gulg is an interesting dungeon. All the lava tiles on the floor will cause damage to the party, but they also have no encounter checks on them. And so you're going to see Poorscythe go out of his way to walk all over the lava tiles here. It's a little risky because his HP levels are going to drop if he gets a random encounter ambush. He could be in a world of hurt. So he's going to try and mitigate that by stopping and healing up his characters every so often with potions. Ideally, though, by walking on the lava tiles, he's going to get significantly less encounters overall. And so it's definitely more worthwhile to do. Suiko's done with class change now, and he's on his way to start doing his shopping. It's an interesting safety save from Poorscythe here. He's electing to save rather than heal, banking on him not getting an ambush. But still dropping the safety save in case it happens. With a little bit of a lead, I can understand why he's going for that strat. It's a little bit faster for him to just save. But if the unthinkable does happen, he will lose some time. So it's risky, but a calculated risk on his end. At Merilith now, the amount of XP he's going to funnel onto his ninja has run out, and he's going to want the warrior alive to help DPS Merilith down. In the version of the route that we have now, you can see the fire spell from Merilith. This was once very rare, so having all your characters at full HP will help you to survive this. It is not as deadly as Lich's Blizzara, but if you don't take the time to heal, this can kill you. You tend to see fire a little bit more often in this route, because your mages don't have the equipment in order to add his DPS. And so if you do under damage on the Thief and Warrior, Merilith is likely to get a turn off. This time he just got straight outspeeded, or outsped, sorry. So he only got 1 attack off before seeing fire. That in itself was pretty rare, but it is not uncommon to see fire in general route the way that it is right now. Like the Marsh Cave earlier in the run, the volcano has had a significantly nerfed encounter rate in the PSP version of the game compared to all the others. And so 1 to 2 encounters is average for the volcano PSP. 0 encounters is really good. And 3 or more is rather questionable to not very good in the PSP version. In the Game Boy Advance version of the game, it's not uncommon to see 5 or 6. And for people that are familiar with other versions of the game. A 2 encounter volcano on Poorscythe is average. It's not even something that we kind of look at as amazing. It's just significantly reduced encounter rate in that dungeon in this version of the game. Alright, so Poorscythe picking up some spells. He's got Teleport and Hilara. Hilara is not just useful for the final boss, but it's also useful for healing in the overworld. As healing 4 characters with potions does take a lot of time, and Hilara has a really fast animation when used in the menu and allow you to top your characters up extremely quickly. I'm personally expecting Poorscythe to stop somewhere in Sunken and do a quick menu to heal up his characters, and also drop some ethers on his 2 mages. He's got 1 spell cast left on his black mage before he has ether. And hopefully he has noticed this, because if he gets a second unrunnable before he drops the ether, he's going to have to resort to Judgment Staff to kill them. Suiko just hitting Merilith, hoping he doesn't see fire. Here's the first unrunnable pack. So Sunken is not deadly like Tavern of Ice was. Sunken just eats a lot of time from you. There are several packs of unrunnables, and they're all fairly common encounters in this dungeon. Whether or not you get them. Commentator curse happens. Poorscythe did not notice that his MP was low and has now had to resort to using Flare on the Sahagin pack. It's the commentator's curse payback for me dying to Lich 3 times when he commentated my race the other day. He's had 3 encounters and 3 of them unrunnable so far. This is not a very good Sunken. It's incredibly unlucky. If Suiko gets some good RNG in Sunken and just gets regular encounters, definitely catch some time back up here. Sharks are good. We want to see sharks. They have really, really low agility, quick to run away from. The 5th floor of Sunken has no encounter checks, so you will not see a single encounter on this floor. Poorscythe is coming here to pick up the Rosetta Stone, and he's going to make a quick teleport back down to the 4th floor. There are 2 light axe treasures in this dungeon, one on the 4th floor, one on the 2nd floor. We need one of the light axes in order to glitch survival vests for our characters, which is the next agility upgrade. You see Poorscythe is going for the one on the 4th floor. The 4th floor strat is a little bit risky. It's less steps overall, but the encounter rates of unrunnables are extremely high here, and as you can see, he got himself a Sahagin Prince in Chief counter. So that's 3 unrunnable encounters, or 4 unrunnable encounters for him so far, and he's just on the first 2 floors of the dungeon. Suiko, done with the shopping, is now looking to head over to Sunken himself and try and catch back up in time to Poorscythe's bad Sunken RNG so far. So Poorscythe doing what is arguably the most complex menu in the game. He's going to want to equip survival vests on both his warrior and his thief. He's going to want to equip 2 lordly robes on the black mage and 2 survival vests, as well as 3 lordly robes on the white mage. The white mage is just set up for chaos, and you can either elect to drop a survival vest where the black garb was, or leave it be. The lordly robes are one of the few items in the game that are safe to glitch onto your shield slot. So the shield slot is a little bit different in armor, because when you get attacked, you try to parry with whatever your shield is, and it tries to draw up the animation of the item that you have equipped. So by putting an armor that's not supposed to be there in your shield slot, the game doesn't know what to do, and it will hard lock. Thankfully, lordly robes, which is a very useful item, does not cause a hard lock shield slot, so we abuse that to get an extra copy of the lordly robes onto our mage. Poorscythe is on the last floor of Sunken. This is the floor with the least unrunnable encounter chance in the dungeon. You're going to encounter water elementals here, which is why we picked up Blizzara, but they're also rare, and it is fairly common to do this entire floor without seeing them once. Suiko's just entering Sunken himself. We're going to pay a little bit of attention to quality of his encounters. Sea Scorpions and Trolls so far for Suiko, that's some pretty good luck. Two nasty ambushes for Poorscythe. This has been a pretty poor sunken overall, and this is what Suiko needs to catch up. The gap has gotten pretty big, and this is one of the last chances for him to kind of catch it up and stay in this race. Poorscythe finally makes his way down to Kraken. Kraken is not a threat to the party at all. A pretty basic fight. 2 attacks with a crit or 3 physical attacks will kill the boss. Yeah, you saw bad rolls from both the warrior and the ninja here, so he's gonna have to take a second turn. And down goes Kraken. We're looking at about a 3-minute gap roughly between both, based on the quality of those. Second part of Sunken. Unlike Poorscythe, he's electing not to go for the 4F light axe, instead go for 2F light axe, which will take him on a little bit of a detour on the second floor. So Suiko's got some low HP rolls, 198 on his ninja, and 163 on the black mage. He's probably not loving those all too much. Poorscythe, on the other hand, 209 and 180, so a little bit more breathing room. He can probably get his black mage up into a range where he doesn't need tonic. He might still do it for safety, considering the lead that he has, but Poorscythe is probably a little bit more happier with his HP rolls right now than Suiko is. Suiko's Rosetta Stone segment was pretty good, but he's been getting hammered with unrunnable encounters. His way back down to Kraken. So just not having any luck today, not being able to close the gap that Poorscythe hit. Poorscythe has now entered Waterfall Cavern. Waterfall Cavern has incredibly high encounter rate, and you kind of hope for a really nice stretch like he's having right now, free of encounters, because this place can just bog you down with nightmares. Are very common here, and despite all the agility that we've boosted our characters with, we still have a little bit of difficulty. Poorscythe picks up the Warp Cube key item that he needs to progress. And he also picks up a ribbon from the chest. Now the ribbon grants us immunity to control status ailments as well as extra elemental resist. The interesting thing about the ribbon is that it glitches into the Gigantax, which the warrior can naturally equip. So this is the one instance of reverse glitching in the run, where we take the ribbon and turn it into the Gigantax, and take the Gigantax and duplicate it into multiple ribbons. So we only need the one, and we're basically going to duplicate that ribbon over multiple characters. Suiko's now getting to Kraken. He's about 4 minutes behind now. A really bad segment walking down to Kraken. Extended Poorscythe's lead a little bit. It's going to be pretty difficult from this point on for to catch 4 minutes back up. It is possible, but the amount of places where he can potentially gain that much time back are starting to slip away. So it's probably getting into panic mode for him right now. Poorscythe, however, comfortably sitting with the lead. Definitely has a little bit of room to spare. You know, in a race setting, when it's really close, every encounter you're on edge because you know one encounter costs you a lot of time. On the segment that Poorscythe's on right now, there's a lot of unrunnables. Minotaur, Zombie is fairly common here. And the more of them you get, the more anxious you get. But with a 4-minute lead, you're not going to be as anxious when you see one as you would if you were 4 minutes. Poorscythe again with an incredible walk without an encounter. It's like a 3 encounter total segment, which is pretty good. 2 of them he had to stop and kill, but 3 encounters total overall. Even having to kill 2 is pretty good. On Suiko's end, on the world map, he got hit with Ice Gigas Winterwolf, which is another unrunnable encounter twice. It is a rare unrunnable encounter. Part of the so they're really annoying to see when they pop up. Poorscythe now has the item he needs to enter the last dungeon of the game before the final dungeon, the one with the last fiend Tiamat. He is on his way to Mirage Tower to put himself into the home stretch. Some more Minotaur zombies for Poorscythe. Fyra is one of the highlights of this route, dealing with runnables, especially the Minotaur zombies. In the older variations of the route, all we had to really deal with them were Barbarian Swords and Judgment Staffs. And so this was a place that you could lose a significant amount of time, and having spells definitely mitigates a lot of the time loss in this section compared to what it used to be. Poorscythe is walking into Mirage Tower now. Mirage Tower is one of those hidden dungeons. You can either have a really, really clean Mirage with not a lot of encounters, or you can have an encounter every 5 steps. It varies from run to run. This is one of the places that when you're on good pace can kill your good pace, or if you're on good pace, gets you on great pace, depending on how it goes. There's not really middle ground. It's either it's really good or it's really bad. Poorscythe so far having a pretty good Mirage. I must say, Poorscythe's back half of this race has been pretty good. He got really unlucky in the first 20-25 minutes with RNG, but since then, he's been on really solid pace. Has not had a lot of slip-ups other than the first half of Sunken. Suiko now doing the Gigantax ribbon menu, and he's going to be on his way to set up his entry into Mirage. On to Flying Fortress for Poorscythe, and he is on his way to set up the home stretch. Evil Eye is the one encounter you do not want to see in this. It is the only unrunnable, and on the first 2 floors can appear fairly commonly. Thankfully, it's just a physical attack to kill him, but it is definitely slows you down compared to any other. Your main threats at this point in the game are what's really going to. Suiko got a little bit turned around in his airship there, trying to find. Probably misread some of the visual and thought he went too far. It does happen from time to time. Poorscythe on Tiamat. Tiamat's a little scary. His AoE attacks are extremely strong. You want to make sure you're topped up for this fight. He had a really clean Tiamat, though. Thunderbolt can do a significant amount of AoE damage to your party, especially with his HP pools at where they are right now, 212 and 182 on his Ninja and Black Mage, respectively. Fairly scary if you see an AoE Tiamat there. You might be stuck with just the Warrior and the White Mage alive. Poorscythe finally done with Tiamat. He's on his way to the final dungeon and the home stretch of the game. With a very comfortable lead, Poorscythe has got to be pretty calm going into the final dungeon. There's a couple things that are scary in here, but overall not that much. And he's probably going to take it as safe as he possibly can, dropping saves at the beginning of the dungeon as well as before some of the Fiend fights. The most deadly things in this dungeon are White Dragon ambushes, Lich 2, and Tiamat. For the most part, the ribbons will protect him from anything else in this dungeon. Here are the infamous White Dragons. No ambush, quick flee for Poorscythe. That's exactly what he wants to see. Purple Worms are unrunnable. He's going to have to stop and kill these. Interestingly enough, they do drop the emergency exit that he was fishing for in the 15 puzzle game. However, he's in the final dungeon, so getting an emergency exit rare drop, which he did get, interestingly enough, is completely used to him at this point in the run, as he's not ever going to leave the dungeon. Black Knights are exactly the encounter you want to see on this floor. And a single encounter floor up to Death Eye, that's pretty solid on Poorscythe's part. There are a lot of unrunnable encounters in Chaos Shrine, and you need to deal with each pack a little bit different. Some will need Blizzara, some will need Fyra, some will need Thundara. But especially the floor before and after Death Eye is where you get the majority of those packs show up. Green dragons, zombie dragons, ice gigas, winter wolves. There's a lot of nasty encounters that you get here. Black knights are basically your free to run away encounter. Here he's got dragon zombies. It's a little interesting that he's deciding to AoE them instead of physical them. 2 mobs or less, it is technically a time save to physical them, but he's probably swapping over 2 magic on the trying to bet on that he may have to spell another encounter before he gets to Lich. It doesn't look like he might have to though. No Ice Storms from those white dragons, that's pretty good. Ice Storm does not do a lot of damage while you have the ribbon, but getting ambushed and if they spam it, can whittle your HP from really high to really low very fast. The white dragons are definitely more scary in Ice Cave when they have a lower HP pool than they are now, but they can still be deadly, unfortunately. So Earth Elementals are the only unrunnable encounter on this floor. Unfortunate Poorscythe that he got them. On Suiko's end, he's now just getting the blue dragon, and he's got the rest of Flying Fortress, and then into Chaos Shrine he goes. At this point, the lead is to the point where he has to hope Poorscythe has a wipe or 2 on the final boss. Poorscythe stopping to top his characters up to full HP. Lich can, rather than outspeeding you and casting Blizzara, this time around he knows Flare. Flare can wipe the party very fast. His warrior has enough HP to tank it. And here's the Flare. We'll see if his white mage can as well. It's a damage roll on the white mage. 20 HP. And a lucky physical attack from Lich the second time around. That was pretty scary, especially considering Poorscythe did not safety save before that. Because he underdamaged on the first turn, he could have taken a 3rd turn after the Flare to get Lich down, and that's the scary situation. Normally, if you're topped and you don't underdamage on the first turn, the fight is generally safe, which is why he elected not to save there. But given the damage rolls he doled out on the first round, it was definitely a little scary for him there. It's on Merilith floor now. Merilith 4 is generally pretty quick. Takes about 45 seconds to a minute to get through this, depending on encounter. He does not want to see the fire element here, otherwise everything else is runnable. Suiko now himself hitting Tiamat. And there's the fire elemental to slow Poorscythe down a little bit. This is the kind of RNG that Suiko would be hoping to see from Poorscythe's end if the race was a little bit closer. But I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to let him catch up at this point. So Merilith's Fire has been upgraded to Firaga, but with the ribbons, it doesn't really do all that much. Shouldn't drop any of your characters. Black mages are really low HP. Speaking of which, the Black Mage has 210 and is definitely in tonic range. Poorscythe with the lead that he has is going to 99% tonic Black no matter what. His Ninja, though, is really sketchy with only 243 HP. You're kind of hoping he's above the 300 threshold at this point in the run. Water Elementals on Kraken's floor. This is the major encounter that will slow you down. It's mostly Sea Trolls and Water Elementals. What you don't want to see is Water Elementals. Suiko getting Tiamat down is on his way to the final dungeon. Poorscythe is on pace to potentially sub 130 this run. If he can get down Tiamat at about 127 on his timer, he has a shot to sub 130. Suiko, on the other hand, is on pace for about a 135, so it's about a 5-minute gap. Water Elementals trying to crush Poorscythe's dream of the first sub 130 in the Total Chaos tournament. And another one. So that's cracking down for Poorscythe. Suiko now in the final dungeon. An unfortunate ambush from Chimera. It's not a deadly encounter, but it's definitely time. You're gonna see haste being cast on the ninja on Poorscythe's side for Tiamat just for the extra DPS. It can make the difference between a 2-round and a 3-round fight. The longer this fight goes, the more deadly it can become. And that's Tiamat down. Tiamat down at exactly 127, so with a good chaos fight, Poorscythe maybe break that 130 barrier. So we go now at Death Eye. It takes approximately 9 to 10 minutes from Death Eye to the end of the run. So we're looking at about a 136 to 137 time, depending on RNG. Suiko's end. Poorscythe doing a little bit of menuing to set up for Chaos. He's going to want to make sure that he takes off all the agility boosting equipment on his White Mage, as well as Plavo Barbarian Sword on the Black Mage for extra DPS. Make sure everyone is healed up and full. As well, we wait to drop the ribbon on the Black Mage just so that we can keep an extra Lordly Robes on him. We correct that now by adding, removing one of the Lordly Robes since we don't need the intelligence on him anymore, and dropping the ribbon to keep his health up. So on to the final boss. It looks like it's going to be a double tonic from Poorscythe, one on the Ninja, one on the Black Mage. And we're kind of hoping not to see a spell from Chaos on. Even with the Giant Tonics, if you can't get your two characters healed up to full in time, a Blaze into Tsunami into Cyclone still has a chance to kill off a character. Pretty good damage roll on the Black Mage. He has enough HP that he should be able to tank the next two spells that come out. Still kind of hoping for a physical here. At this point, we're going to plop haste on the warrior and next to the Black Mage. And then from there, it's going to be hold X to win. So the reason you want to take all the agility off the White Mage in this fight is you want to ensure that White Mage goes last to make sure that you get healed up to full. The one thing you want to avoid is a random turn order. If the White Mage heals and then Chaos goes on one turn, and then Chaos outspeeds the White Mage on the second turn and gets 2 moves off consecutively, you will wipe. So we want to make sure that there is exactly 1 heal for every 1 Chaos spell. Chaos does not get 2 moves off before you get the chance to heal up once. And it's hold X to win time for Poorscythe now. He's got his character set up, and they're all healed up. There's nothing Chaos can do at this point except crit the White Mage. That will put Poorscythe in a position where he will not win this. And the 130 dream for Poorscythe has died, unfortunately. But it is going to be very close. for 130. And that's the last hit. It's an official SRL time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 18 seconds. An incredible run from Poorscythe. Suiko, on the other hand, just getting to Lich now. And make sure he's topped off, cleared up. And he's gonna plop the safety save just to be sure. His health pool's a little bit more than Poorscythe's. But again, if he underdamages the first turn and lets use the flare, it is a very scary situation. And there's the flare. See what the damage roll is here. And there's the second turn kill. So if Lich gets off a second or a third turn, that's where that fight becomes scary. But thankfully, he did enough damage on the first turn to ensure that the fight went smoothly, even with the flare. So with this win, Poorscythe now will move to 1-1 overall in the tournament. Suiko will move to 1-2. Boxmeister leads Group Cyclone with a 2-1 record at the moment. So Poorscythe will need another win to catch back up the Group B leader Boxmeister. We go now on Marilith. And that's Marilith down. Only 2 more bosses before the final boss. We're going to see how Kraken Floor goes for, if it's a little better than Poorscythe's was. Here's a water elemental on Suiko's side. Blizzara spell of kill these guys. I know it's counterintuitive. You would think that a water elemental would be weak to lightning, but it's in fact weak to ice and F1. I guess you can't really flow around and twirl when you're frozen, so I guess maybe that makes sense. Until I started speedrunning this game, I always assumed they were weak to lightning. Kraken not putting up much of a fight, and now we're down to Tiamat. We have maybe 1 or 2 more random encounters left on Suiko's end. Because Kraken didn't really do anything, he doesn't need to top himself up for Tiamat. He's also going to elect to haste the ninja for the extra DPS. The haste going off before the ninja's first turn definitely makes the fight higher chance of going 2 rounds instead of 3. You can see the Thunderbolt does about 100 damage. If he follows that up with another AoE move, it could be a painful experience. But 2k from the hasted ninja makes sure that that does not happen. And now it's just the final boss left. Oh, this is a nasty encounter to get 1 tile after him at 4 purple worms. Has no choice but to Judgment Staff. He did hit defend by accident on all 4 characters instead of queuing up the Judgment Staff. It does happen from time to time where you think you input the down input and it just doesn't register. The PSP version of this game is definitely finicky with the inputs. There is a little bit of input lag. So you can't menu too fast or the game just doesn't know what to do with its health. Alright, so the pre-chaos menu here, he's gonna plop the Barbarian Sword on his Black Mage. He's gonna plop a he has the ribbon on the White Mage armor, so he's gonna throw the Sage Staff on. So he had the Lust Dagger on the White Mage the whole time. I throw the Sage's Staff on her sometimes earlier, sometimes not. The Sage's Staff is important for the White Mage's intelligence to boost the amount that Hilara will cure for. Thankfully, if you do not remember to equip it, you can equip it mid-battle because the Sage's Staff is naturally equipable by the White Wizard. Uh, 20 MP is enough to cast Haste. It's a 15 MP. Suiko's Ninja getting to level 15 before buying spells allowed him to pick up Haste. This saves a turn of setup by allowing the ninja to haste himself. And it's only 2 turns of casting Haste instead of 3. A little bit of a risky move by choosing to tonic the ninja on the 2nd turn. But thankfully Chaos cooperated and did no major damage to the ninja. And now he's set up, it's press X to win. Again, the only thing that can really damage him here is a crit on the White Mage. A crit physical attack can one-shot the White Mage. No source of heals. If you haven't done enough damage to him to be able to kill him off in the next round, you're in a world of trouble. You're going to have to survive the next round of Chaos while getting your White Mage back up with the Phoenix down, and then hopefully getting physical again before you can get your healer off. Thankfully, crit physicals on the White Mage are not very common. It's a pretty rare occurrence to see it happen, and incredibly unlucky if it does. He's had a pretty clean Chaos so far. This is Blaze several turns into the fight. This is what you want to see in a Chaos fight overall. And that's the fight. So Suiko has finished in 2nd place with an SRL time of 1 hour, 39 minutes, and 13 seconds. So it was a 9-minute gap between the 2 runners. It was fairly close at one point in the race, but Poorscythe just grinding away that lead, making it ever so large. Had some very good sections of RNG. Alright, so let's see some GGs in the chat for both runners. Congrats to Poorscythe for winning this one, and a very valiant effort congrats for sticking it out all the way to the finish for Suiko. Both runners indicated that they're down for a little bit of post-race interview, so definitely don't change the dial. Stick around for a little bit. We're going to have both runners in here for a little bit of a chat post-race. All right, here they are. Congratulations, Poorscythe, on the win.
Thank you.
So it was a lead for you from the beginning, and it just kept getting bigger. Were you aware during the race of how wide it had gotten?
Yep, I had it on the background. Just keeping it. I'm
There
just
was
really glad. I'm really just glad that the practice run I was doing before this was not this run, because it was atrocious.
yeah, I saw the timer at the end of that run. It was 5 minutes slower than the run you just did.
Yeah, it just would not let up.
I know there were a few segments you had throughout this run, notably the Rosetta segment, where you got pretty hammered, and I thought it was a perfect chance for a comeback. But unfortunately, RNG just did not cooperate on the other side.
I did what I could. I think the only real mistake I made was that one Sahagan encounter in Sunken, yeah.
Yeah, I commentator cursed you on that one. I had mentioned before you walked into Sunken that you only had one cast left, and I was surprised you hadn't. And I wanted to see if you'd get stuck in an encounter and realize too late.
Well, funnily enough, I had the audio on in the background, so I actually heard you mentioning that like right as I got into the encounter. So I had no chance to really fix it, but I was like, oh yeah, that would probably be a thing to keep an eye on.
All right, Suiko, from your end, you did everything you could to keep in that race, but unfortunately, RNG just did not want to let you gain time back. Do you have any thoughts? Having a little bit of mic issues at the moment from the sounds of it. So overall, it was just RNG that was the major difference. Both runs were pretty clean from start to finish in terms of execution, but it's just the way of FF1 sometimes.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, no, I have my own headset muted and I forgot to unmute it.
Was there any point in the run where you kind of realized that the gap had gotten too far for you to close?
When I saw that I was about 3 to 4 minutes behind at Citadel Trials.
I had thought you could definitely pull it back from Citadel. That was for sure. There were a couple segments that Poorscythe had really bad luck in, but unfortunately you just got equally as hammered in those segments and weren't able to gain ground back.
I wasn't watching the restream, but once on my splits, I saw that I was 4 minutes behind. I was like, okay, this is just a fun run now. And then
Yeah.
Poorscythe just got just as horrible luck as I did.
It is definitely possible midway through the run to come back from a 4-minute deficit. I know I did on the weekend, but as you start getting further into the run and further into the run, if you're not getting ground back, that's when you start to think, I don't know if there's really all that much place where you get that back. I'm glad to see that you kept your cool and you just kept trucking along.
I mean, my Sunken Temple wasn't terrible, but once again, I just kept me those unrunnables at the second half of it. So
yeah, that's what really was the final nail in the coffin for you, because Poorscythe had the same luck, but in the first half of Sunken, and then his second half was really clean after he got the Rosetta Stone. So you had cut some time back up at Rosetta Stone, lost it all with the unrunnables on your way back down.
Yeah, I kept going really fast and then really slow in spots. I kept getting like stretches like the third floor of Cavern of Earth, where I like went the whole floor without getting an encounter, and then I got everything on the way back.
Yeah.
That whole stretch from getting out of there to getting over to the vampire was absolutely atrocious, or the Earth Rod.
Yeah, your ice cave was very scary too, Poorscythe. Very scary.
It was just a lot of encounters, unfortunately.
Yeah,
the
cockatrice ambush kind of had me on edge for a second.
Oh yeah, that reminded me. Like my thief was just getting blasted. Like he died as the setup for the grind. Then he got killed by mind flayers. Then he got petrified.
Yep.
So he just was not having a good day.
You had a lot of Piscos too, which is unfortunate for you with the strats you use and not keeping the Sage Staff on the Black Mage.
Yeah,
so that slows you down a bit.
Have the agility there. I think it's easier. It makes it easier for the undead packs, especially.
Yeah.
I don't mind the time lost there. I'd rather have the agility over the intelligence. But
Yeah, it's a toss. Yeah, both arguments are valid. It's a toss-up strat. Which one you use? You're either taking some or giving some in both situations.
most certainly.
Only other mistake I can remember, like right at the very start, I didn't switch the configuration options before I went into the menuing.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, it was like literally right at the start. I just somehow skipped that, and it was like trying to do weapon to weapon with nothing. Can't do that exactly.
Both your C's were terrible too. I know you guys got blasted on the C in the early part of the game.
They're pretty good. The run before this, I committed, I think, some Sahagin genocide in the Sunken Temple, because I just got, no joke, a good 7-8 encounters there. I probably murdered a good 60.
60 Sahagins.
Yeah. I didn't have a choice. So I'm really glad that this felt like it lined up more like my skill level, but also I got some very good luck here.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that. I was a little upset that I just missed the 130 mark, because we've all been trying to break into that so far, and nobody's been able to do that.
You were close. Chaos, one less spell, might have gotten it.
Yeah, after he did the tsunami, it was okay. It had a chance.
And of course, I got the physical chaos on a really bad run. The chaos that you want to see.
It's always how it happens. You never get the good chaos when you're on good.
Well, that's all I got. I think we got some more matches in the morning now.
Yeah, looks like it.
Oh yeah, I do believe it's the next one's at 8 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, Mutsky versus Randus, the rematch after this morning's little fiasco for Mutsky. I'm sure he wants a little revenge there.
Oh, definitely.
So.
Yeah, 8 a.m. we have Mutsky and Randus. Also at 2 p.m. we have Leonis and Sans in Courage group. That's a doubleheader, so there will be a match at 2 and a match at 4 between both of them. It will be a back-to-back.
2 matches as well for Cruel playing against Who 42 Baker at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. as well tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of matches tomorrow.
I got mine with Cruel towards the end of group stage. That is actually going to be very interesting. The
those
two
I'm
of
looking
us,
forward to those matches.
the two of us are probably the top 2 runners, and that could have serious seeding implications for who comes out of our group. That doubleheader between the 2 of us. It's not unfeasible that the both of us are undefeated going into those matches.
And we gotta see. Okay.
We also could get our butts kicked in the previous matches, and that could decide who moves to. And Cruel and I are both on similar skill levels, so those are matches to watch out for. We also have coming up Wednesday, Leonith and Sonny Rath a doubleheader, and Sanson Ellie also have a doubleheader the day after. So we got a lot of matches coming up. Definitely stay tuned. The tournament is in full swing right now. Hope you guys are entertained. It's nice seeing this many people out for Final Fantasy 1.
Oh yeah, always wonderful to see a lot of people watch.
Yes, I also missed the winner's graphic up. Apparently, I was paying attention to the restream and not the commentator controls.
That's alright.
But I just kind of pinged you as finished after both runners had already.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to get going. So I just wanted to thank Suiko for the race, thank Double for the commentary, and thank everybody else for watching it.
Most certainly, it was a really good race, Poorscythe. And thank you so very much, Double, for commenting.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our rematch whenever
Hopefully,
we find time for it.
Oh yeah, hopefully we get a little bit better RNG on both ends. Make a little bit better race.
Yeah, I'm hoping many of the players in this tournament use this as an opportunity to improve. So, with that, I guess we're all set here.
All right, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with more FF1.
All right, thanks everyone.